If you're looking for a new way to support the podcast, check out Dubby.gg, an energy supplement company trying to make a difference. There you can use code SIDEMISSION for 10% off your order. Thank you to Dubby for sponsoring this episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. I, like always, am your host, Rusty Ellis, joined by just one of the boys, Matt Beck, because Kyle is still out with wisdom teeth surgery. He is still recovering. And again, some of you are probably going to celebrate, and some of you are going to be like, darn, we miss his commentary. But it's okay, because I'm probably going to say a lot of the things that he's feeling about today's topic anyway. So here we are. We are talking, finally, Matt, about episode 1 of season 2 of The Last of Us. It is finally here, and Matt, this first episode comes with a lot of intrigue, comes with a lot of interesting tidbits, and more importantly, it leaves out a very important part of the first game, which I'm sure by the time this is live, episode 2 has come out, and they have likely done what we think they're going to do. I do want to go ahead and say, just up front, to go ahead and get ahead of this, every episode that comes out, we are going to go deep, deep, deep into spoilers. So if you have not seen the new episode and you don't want to have it spoiled for you, this is your chance to click away and not be spoiled, and you can come back and listen to it, and you can hear our thoughts, see if you agree, and you'll probably disagree on some things. But that is your spoiler warning as we get into this. So Matt, I enjoyed this first episode quite a bit. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. We watched it together when I was in Memphis last weekend. We watched it together, and there were a lot of good things to talk about. I think that the first thing that sticks out, Matt, is I like how it expands on a lot of things in Jackson that maybe we didn't know a lot about in the second game. For one, we see a lot of what Joel's role is in Jackson compared to, again, vastly so compared to what we saw in the game. In the game, we're not really given anything. We know that he's relatively high up in status, but we don't really know what his job is. And here we see a lot of expansion on that. We see a lot of expansion in terms of what life is like in Jackson. Because again, we see it in the game quite a bit early, but I think they expanded upon it here, Matt. And I feel like that works very well in this episode's favor.
Yeah, I actually did enjoy seeing that because, I mean, it was like a 5-year time skip since the events of Last of Us 1. And we know that Elle and Joel have been in Jackson since the events of Last of Us 1, part 1. So kind of, and that's what I really appreciated what they did is delve more into what Joel's, side of things is, because anyone who's played the game knows that Joel is not really in the game. Just leave it at that. But I like the fact that we see him. He basically has his own office for a second there. I thought he was like a mayor of some sort, but he's just in his office tinkering with some things. As he speaks to his brother Tommy, his wife. We get to meet their child. I thought that was a really sweet interaction. Get to see Uncle Joel. But one of the things that I really like that they did with Joel in this episode is that Joel from season 1 is a hardened veteran. He's seen some shit. He's been through a lot of shit. But after the events of season 1, he's kind of more, he's tired. He's more, there's a lot of things going between him and Ellie, and that are greatly affecting his mental health. And, it's almost like this Joel just has lost the will to keep going. And it's so sad to see that, especially from, Pedro Pascal is a fantastic actor. And I think that the differences between season 1 and season 2 Joel, you could tell the difference, and he pulls it off. Like, you could just feel that type of emotion. And, the separation of him and Ellie because he lost her trust, all of the events from, the last episode of season 1, it really shows here. It really shows what that relationship meant to him. And as he's losing it after everything that Joel was lost, it made me so sad to see him in that way, especially further on in the episode when Ellie says something to him, and it just breaks my heart because you know how much Joel loves Ellie.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is something that is vastly important for people that have not played the games, is that this is not the same Joel that we see in season 1. This is a very, very, very different version of him in the sense that, like you just said, in part 1, he's a survivor. He's doing whatever it takes to survive. He's lost a lot, and he's just trying to live. in part 2, we see a version of Joel that is a little bit more trusting, that is a lot more giving, that has become less hardened over time as his life has progressed in Jackson. And that's obviously going to play out, I think, a lot more in episode 2, and we'll get to that here in a bit. But I thought Pedro Pascal depicted that perfectly. I think in a show that has its fair share of casting question marks, so we'll say, and we'll get to the big one here soon, I do think that Pedro Pascal continues to knock it out of the park as Joel. I do think he continues to nail that. And I personally am a big fan of his performance, and I hope that we see more and more of that. Obviously, we'll get more to his character here shortly. I do think, in terms of side characters, Matt, really big fan of Isabella Merced as Dina. Really big fan of her. I thought, in terms of her mannerisms, her attitude, her personality, I thought Isabella Merced knocked it out of the park. I loved her in episode 1. And I think what I like, to tie it back into Joel, those two very clearly have a relationship. Those two very clearly have a friendship to where they trust in each other. They confide in each other. And we see that early on when Dina is working on one of the pipes in the settlement. She goes in to tell Joel, like, hey, the line is pretty much all clay. It's filled with roots. Our foreman's not really doing his job. And Joel opens up to her, tells her that he's in therapy and that he's trying to fix things with Ellie, and that it's very clear at this point they've become estranged. So much so that for people that have not played the game, I've answered my fair share of questions this week about why is Ellie mad at Joel? And obviously, we've played the games. We know why she is. But Joel knows why she is upset with him, and he's trying to make it right, but he feels like she's not really giving him the opportunity to make things right, and he confides in Dina about that. And I love that we see there's very clearly an amount of trust here, a friendship here. I like that because, again, we don't get that kind of expansion in the game. We don't have that relationship really expanded upon in the game, but it's very clear that they have that. So I like that quite a bit. I also very much do like the actor that is playing Jesse. I think that it's a different take on the character. But certainly it's still a similar vibe of he's someone that wants to trust Ellie, wants to like Ellie, but he also is operating with this, I don't want to push her too hard because I don't want Joel to come down on me. And I do feel like, again, he nails that. He nails that aspect of Jesse's character, because Jesse in the game very much is someone that doesn't want to push Ellie too far. And I think that, again, that part of the character was nailed here. I'm interested to see where they go from here with it. I'm trying to find the actor's name right now, as it's taking me a little bit of time as the page loads up. Young Mazzino. So I thought he did a really good job as well. I think Gabriel Luna as Tommy, I'm really excited for Gabriel Luna's depiction of Tommy as this season moves forward. Because Tommy is a standout character in the second game. He's given a much bigger role in the second game. And I'm excited to see what Gabriel Luna does with that character, but he continues to nail that. Another little side note, because I mentioned when we were watching the episode, Gail, the therapist, played by Catherine O'Hara. And that's a really big name that this show got for what felt like a smaller character who I think we're going to see a few more times throughout the season. I loved her in this, though. And I loved that the show twisted that it wasn't Tommy, at least to this point, that Joel really opened up to about what he did with Ellie. It was more Gail that he spoke to. And I liked that. Again, I've liked a lot of the liberties that HBO has taken with this show, with the source material. I like it, and I liked this because, again, it gave it a little bit of a different twist to where Joel's now in therapy. He's talking to this therapist who, funny enough, is the wife of Eugene. If you've played the games, you would know that Eugene is a character that is mentioned in passing in the game, and it's revealed that he was a Firefly. That little detail comes back to roost because it turns out that Joel killed Eugene, and Gail has always kind of held that over him, and she admits that to Joel. She goes, I want to forgive you. I want to take you off the hook of this. I want to move on, and I want to be a friend to you almost, but I can't because she feels like she's been wronged because Joel killed him. So I thought that whole therapy scene, Matt, I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's a character who wasn't in the game. Like the thing is, when you're doing a TV show, you can kind of play with these characters and advance stories. Like we're still seeing the repercussions of Joel's actions, and exactly with Gail, his therapist, and the fact that he killed her husband. Like the shit that Joel did was monstrous. Like yes, he did it for Ellie, but at the same time, he killed innocent people. The Fireflies were not bad people. Unfortunately, they just so happened to be on the wrong, like on the side of things that Joel didn't agree with, and all the shit that Joel's been through. Like, I mean, he is a killer. He is, a sympathetic killer. Like, but and again, I come back to like that whole thing. It's like with future episodes, maybe they can expand more upon that. Just the type of damage that Joel caused, all in to save Ellie's life. Um, and back on the whole thing with Dina, I thought she was fantastic, and I ended up liking her better in just this one episode than I did in the game. If that's
Yes.
crazy to say, I just think that's because the actress is so charismatic, and like she makes Dina her own character. Like Dina has like she's more kind of just like laid back and chill, and she has like her little moments of fun. Like in the game, you have the snowball fight, but here she's joking around. She's she has this moments like with Joel when he confides into her. And again, I like the fact that they develop more of a friendship between those two than just some passerby, because like I said, when you're making a TV show, you're not limited to what happened in the game. You can loosely, just like they did in season 1 with Bill and Frank's story, we got an entirely new storyline with that. So I'm very curious to see what the what the directors, producer, and everything decides to do with the show going forward, because some things are not all in order right now, and I believe that this is one of the things that you have brought up to my attention when we finished the episode.
Yeah, I think that it's very clear that they're going to take their time with this season. It's very, very clear, and I have my questions regarding that. But staying on the performances side of things, there's one other new actor or actress, I should say, that I feel like is being unfairly criticized, and that's Caitlin Dever. I think she is being massively crucified right now, as she's not Abby, because Abby is this muscular bodybuilder, and that's just not who Caitlin Dever is. She's very small, very petite.
Yeah.
She's not a bodybuilder. And I've seen these comments being made about her that, she's just not Abby because of that reason. If you think Abby, her whole character was just her muscles, and you played the game, I don't feel like you got the point of the game. I feel like you didn't actually play the game, because that's not all Abby is muscle. She's very much this motivated young individual who feels like she's been wronged, and she will do whatever it takes to accomplish her mission. And I said this. I felt like when we met her in the beginning, which I do have some qualms with, but I will get into that shortly. When she spoke and said, "We're going to kill him, and when we do, we're going to do it slowly," ooh, I was sitting there and I was just like, "That's Abby. That is Abby. Like, that sounds just like Laura Bailey. That sounds just like her." I was like, that to me is Abby in a nutshell. So for me, it wasn't at all that, like the muscle like takes me out of it. No, I think Abby is a much deeper character than that. So I think if you're out there and you're saying she's not Abby because of the lack of muscles, again, I feel like you missed the entire point of that character if that's all you thought. Now, to get into criticisms, and I take no pleasure in saying this, and I was scared I was going to be saying this when we saw some of the clips that got released. I was scared I was going to have to say this on episode 1, and I'm going to come out ahead of it, and I'm going to say it now so that I don't have to constantly repeat it throughout the season when this statement inevitably becomes even more factual. Bella Ramsey as Ellie in this episode is rough. It's very rough to watch, at least in my opinion. Matt, you may feel differently, but it doesn't feel like there's a ton of character growth here. And I feel like from part 1 to part 2, Ellie is a completely different character. She is a completely different character. This just feels like a continuation of part 1 Ellie, and I'm not thrilled with that. I think Bella Ramsey is a fantastic actress. I think she is. I think there's a lot of talent here. But right now, from an opening perspective, an episode 1 perspective, I am not sold on her as part 2 Ellie. And I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way about that. So, I think that is relevant for now. I think that it's important to point out that I am hopeful that I'm wrong. And Matt, I'll let you give your take on it because I don't know we didn't get a chance to talk much about Bella Ramsey in this episode when we talked about it.
Yeah.
But I was left wanting more character growth, and I just didn't feel like we got that. And the part that does it for me is when she's out shooting with Tommy and she's screaming about how she's immune and she's yelling it so loud because nobody can hear them. But I'm just like, that's not part 2 Ellie. Part 2 Ellie is very low-key, is very quiet and reserved.
Yeah.
That's not what we got, and I was a little disappointed with that.
Yeah, I mean, the script is no fault of Bella's. I mean, she works with what she's given. I mean, the thing with me and Ellie in this episode is she just felt bratty. She felt it was obnoxious. Yes. She was complaining about having to do gate duty. She was, the way she treated Joel, like, to me personally, especially at the end there, like, that was just so uncalled for, in my honest opinion. But I completely agree with you on the fact that it just doesn't feel like a 5-year time skip with Ellie in this. Like, it just feels like maybe a week or maybe a month, but it doesn't feel like... Just take a look at what Pedro did with Joel in this episode, and then take a look at what Bella did with Ellie.
Yes, I like the word bratty. That's a very apt description, I think. I think you're spot on there. I think it also does no real favor to Bella, and I feel really bad about what I'm about to say, and I know there's going to be somebody that listens to this that takes this the wrong way or whatever. But to me, it didn't really help because I just didn't believe any kind of the romantic interest between her and Dina. I just didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's through no fault of Bella Ramsey. That is between her and God. But Isabella Merced is wildly attractive. Wildly attractive. And Bella Ramsey just kind of isn't. And the believability just is not there. There's no chemistry there right now. And again, I'm hopeful that I'm wrong. I want to put that out there and make sure that's clear. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that develops. Yeah. But I'm just sitting there watching it. I'm like, I just don't see the chemistry. And for episode 1, for this to be the setup episode, you have to really, in the game, their relationship is a very big part of the game. You have to be able to believe that. In the game, I believe it. This, I just don't. I don't think the chemistry is there, and it didn't work a ton early on. Now, I'm not going to be like the 2 idiots who I shared on Instagram who said they shipped Abby and Ellie more than Ellie and Dina. If you played the games, you know why that's stupid. And it's very clear that these 2 individuals had not played the game. Very, very clear. But again, I hope I'm wrong. It's just that I just didn't feel like the chemistry was there. I just didn't see it. It felt very awkward. And I know that in the game, the first kiss is awkward. But
that was cringe. I didn't feel that because there's no chemistry.
Yeah, it wasn't as awkward as this was. This was very, very, very awkward. And I don't know. I didn't feel that person. I didn't feel like it was very believable. So now the big critique that I have, and the critique that I think matters, and I think a lot of people are going to take less offense to this because I already know I'm going to get messaged about the last point that I just said. I already know who's going to message me, and I'm just preparing myself mentally to have to deal with the mental gymnastics that person's going to do to justify why it worked. But a good friend of mine, respect his opinion very much, but I already know what I'm going to have to deal with. But the other part of it that I do have question marks is the pacing of the show.
Yeah.
And I think that the pacing is very much in question because there's only 6 more episodes in season 2. It's very clear that their goal was to split part 2 into halves, to where the first half of the game is part 1, or is this season. The second half is going to be season 3. It's very clear that's what they wanted to do. Well, and this is where the spoiler alert really comes into play. So if you didn't listen on the spoiler warning before, now is your last chance, because you're going to get a major detail of the game spoiled for you, and probably you're going to get part of episode 2 spoiled for you as well. I can't fathom that we got to the credits of this episode, Matt, and Joel is still alive. He's still alive. Like, you only have 6 more episodes. Like, unless they're all going to be hour-and-a-half long episodes, how are you going to get to the midpoint of the game by the end of this season? I just don't personally see how that's going to happen, because Joel's death happens in the first 2 hours of the game. It probably should have happened by the end of this episode, and I feel like it was a mistake that it hasn't happened yet, Matt.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I felt like when you are doing a season opener, you want to leave an impact that's going to have people come back to continue watching. That is not what they did here. In fact, I think one of my biggest annoyances, and I don't know how you felt about this, but the biggest freaking twist of the story between 1 and 2 is literally revealed in the beginning of the episode. Like, you now know what's going to happen. You now know what the motivation is. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. Because I remember in the game.
I'm glad you brought that up. So that was something I was going to say next. I love Caitlin Dever as Abby. We did not need to see her yet. We did not need to see her. I thought the first time we saw her should have been the little shot at the end of the episode. That should have been our first shot. Like, I'm a fan in storytelling, and you heard me say this a lot in terms of some critiques I had in, I think of episode 8 in season 1, of don't tell me something is going to happen, show me something happening. And she spells it out. The writers just spell it out. Abby is going to kill Joel. They just kind of spell it out, and it's like, that removes all of the mystery. Matt, do you remember when we first started the game up, when it first came out, and you meet Abby for the first time, and you're like, who is this character? Who is she?
Yeah.
What is her backstory? Cool. all of that mystery is gone. It's all gone. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it either, honestly, because that is that is the big, impact of the game. I mean, there's a lot, but that right there, that's the one. That's the one that has caused Last of Us fans to no longer be Last of Us fans. And just to have it right then and there at the beginning of the episode, and then the whole entire rest of the episode was, the events of what was going on in Jackson with Joel and Ellie, and then the episode ends with, Abby and her group looking down at Jackson from the mountains, because if you play the game, you know what's coming. Like, it's, I also did notice that there seems to be what's going to be infected attacking Jackson. And I was like, I don't know if that happened. Am I remembering that wrong? I thought they were all in some cabin area or something.
No, you're 100% right. I feel like, and I said this when I first watched it, and then on a rewatch, I was like, I don't know about this. It seems like in episode 2, there's going to be almost like this White Walker showdown from like Game of Thrones. Like, it seems like there's going to be like almost like that kind of throwdown.
Yeah.
But that's not anything close to what happened. So I'm not going to write it off just yet, because I want to see what they do with it. I'm not going to write it off at all, because that very well could just be something that they deal with in the beginning of the episode. They deal with it and then you move on. It could very well just be that. But I was like, I don't know about some of this. Like, I don't know. But it all comes back to pacing. How are they going to get through the entire first half of the game in one season if this is the pacing? I feel like at some point you're going to have to rush, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case either, because, I mean, you said, there's only 6 episodes in this season?
6 more. There's 7 in total.
So 7 in total. And, I mean, the first act of the game is, like, really long. It has a lot to cover. I mean, depending on how they run through this next episode, I mean, we may be looking at not even going to that part of the game with season 3. And I'm like, that's going to be kind of an annoyance. Honestly,
I'm gonna have a lot of questions regarding pacing if we get to the end of this season and we're not at the halfway point of the game. I'm gonna have a lot of questions. So I enjoyed this episode quite a bit, but I think that there are a fair amount of questions that have to be raised about some things that have been handled in this show in this first episode that obviously, as of recording, it's Friday. The next episode comes out in 2 days. We'll have our answers soon enough. But episode 2 is a very, very important episode, Matt, and I don't think that that's understating it, that if you really want to get things rolling, episode 2 has to be fantastic.
It does, yes.
So, certainly a lot of questions that we have, but a really good start to the season as a whole. Definitely a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered soon. But I think it's safe to say, Matt, that despite the negativity, we did enjoy this episode quite a bit.
Absolutely, yes. The other thing I wanted to add that I did like is the fact that the infected had different classes. Like in this episode, we learn of the stalkers.
Okay, the stalker. I'm glad you brought that up because I loved that. The stalker. Oh my god, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I love that whole entire moment in the game. Like, Ellie collapsing to the floor, and then the stalker. And then it's just like when she tells, the people of Jackson about that, they take it seriously because the infected are more than just, these fungi, corpses. They have different classes, like we saw with the oh god, I forgot the name of the big boomer. Boomer? What was it called?
The bloater. The bloater.
The bloater, yes, the bloater. And that they're just not, your typical zombie. Like, I love the fact that over time, the fungus grows more and more and almost becomes like a superpower, supernatural force. And the Stalker did a fantastic job of pulling that off.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that was really good. And what did it for me was, Ellie looking at it going, run at me. And then eventually shouting, run at me. Because it's like, this is an infected that has evolved. This is an infected that is no longer just your standard, runner or clicker. This is an infected that is portrayed as dangerous because they're tactical and they're smart. And I am excited to see more of that because, Matt, do you remember what one of our biggest critiques was with the second half of season 1? It was that we heard a lot about the infected, but we didn't see a lot of the infected.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to be the case at all in this season. I think this season we're going to see just how big of a threat the infected can be. So, Matt, before we call it an episode, is there anything else you wanted to add? Because you did a good job of jogging my memory with the stalker. Did you have anything else to add?
Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of the beginning scene with Ellie taking down on that one guy. Because I don't remember if that was in the game. I just felt like they were trying to show Ellie had a tougher side, and it just didn't work for me.
I don't think I hated that scene, but it certainly did feel kind of forced. I do see what you're saying. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it either. So I could have taken that or left that. Like, it didn't really make or break anything for me. But yeah. I do see what you're saying there. So I do think, important to point out, I know we were very critical in the second part of this episode, but we did very much enjoy the episode. We're looking forward to episode 2. Hopefully, by the time we're able to record for episode 2, Kyle will be fully recovered and we will be able to talk in depth about what should be a really, really good episode. I'm excited. I'm excited more than anything else to see all the people who don't know that Joel is going to die. I'm excited to see all of them get mad at this episode because it's going to be funny. It's going to be really funny to see that reaction, I think. So that is going to do it for this episode of Side Mission. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Side Mission Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook as well at Side Mission Podcast. For Matt, for Kyle, who's somewhere rehabilitating his mouth, I'm Rusty. Thanks for listening.